The right to vote is still under attack. That marchers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge bled for 59 years ago.
It's not like that right now, right? But in order to provoke this kind of response, it's like, oh yeah, I remember how bad that was. I'm like, we need new holidays or something. Are civil rights under attack right now? Like, is this even real? Is there anything even to this? Okay, peace family. My name is Christina Victoria, and I'm back with another one. And today I wanted to talk about Merrick Garland, the U.S. Attorney General, and his church speech that he just recently made in Selma, Alabama, really regarding voting rights. And he has been saying that voting rights are under attack. And I wanted to kind of do a little dive into whether that's actually true. Are voting rights under attack? And is this really something that's still a problem for the Black community? So as always, before we get into the video, I love you guys. Wishing you, your loved ones, and even your enemies, and those outside of your political party, and even those outside of your race, abundant life, love, joy, peace, and prosperity, even to me. And so with that, let's get into the video.
The right to vote was under attack on Sunday, March 7th, 1965, when civil rights activists set out to march from Selma to Montgomery and were met with horrific violence.
We are continuing to celebrate what is called Bloody Sunday. Now, what is Bloody Sunday? Bloody Sunday happened 59 years ago. People were marching for civil rights. This is in the middle of the civil rights movement. And as they marched across the bridge, they were encountered with just like brutal violence, okay? But the question I really want to ask here is, I'm like, we need new holidays or something. Why is it that in the Black community, it feels like all we do is celebrate negative things, right? It's like we celebrate and rehearse and repeat and remind people of like the worst atrocities that happened to us. So Bloody Sunday is a holiday in Selma, Alabama for Black people in Alabama, you know? And so it's like the vice president, because she's a quarter Black, partially Black, she decides to go and just, link arms with everyone just to show solidarity, which it's like, I get it. I get that we have to remember the past on some level, the Sankofa energy, look backward so that you can look forward. But I think on some level, it's like the Black community is living in the past.
It was under attack in the wake of the Civil War and amidst Reconstruction, when white supremacists used violence and threats of violence to stop Black Americans from exercising their right to vote.
And Black people, at the time of the Civil Rights Movement, yes, we're getting run over in the streets and stuff, okay? But that's not happening right now.
But the right to vote was still under attack nearly a century later, when Black residents trying to register to vote in this county and in jurisdictions across the country were required to take impossible tests that were designed to ensure that they failed.
But what it feels to me is that people like Attorney General Garland use these things that happened a long time ago and rehearse it. Like, don't you remember how racist the white people were to you? Don't you remember when they tried to take your rights? Don't you remember when they ran you over in the streets? And it's like over and over again, trying to make us live in our mind in the past when the present is not like that. That's really how I feel about this. It's like they want us to keep reminding us of, you remember all these atrocities that happened 60 years ago? It's not like that right now, right? But in order to provoke this kind of response, it's like, oh yeah, I remember how bad that was. I'm like, we need new holidays or something. Why can't we celebrate, positive things that are happening in the community as opposed to celebrating the worst, most negative things? And I feel like it's intentional, to be honest, to keep Black people triggered, in this, if you've heard of CPTSD, right? It's complex PTSD.
PTSD is typically triggered by a specific or a series of events in a short period of time, while CPTSD is caused by a series of traumatic events over a long period of time. The traumatic events can take place over several months to several years.
And the idea is that a lot of people will have this kind of low-level trauma, And so you can kind of prick it, right? Prick it. Let me just prick your trauma. If I'm aware of your trauma, right, I can prick it.
Dr. Sonia Bruner from BetterHelp describes CPTSD as an issue involving safety. Feeling unsafe, especially for an extended period of time, can cause trust issues and issues with hyperarousal. Hyperarousal is another, where you experience intense anxiety surrounding an event and anything that may remind you of it.
And provoke a response from you that will be uncontrolled, like you won't be able to control it because it's a trauma response that's unhealed. And it feels like there's this deep unhealing in our community. And certain political leaders are like pricking it whenever they want to get a certain response from us. And I just really don't, that doesn't sit right to me.
But as you well know, court decisions in recent years have drastically weakened the protections of the Voting Rights Act that marchers on the Edmund Pettus Bridge bled for 59 years ago.
And so I actually looked into it. I was like, are civil rights under attack right now? Like, is this even real? Is there anything even to this, right? And so I actually wanted to be fair. And I was like, let me actually not go to Alabama, but let me like use the internet to explore the world around Selma, Alabama right now to see what's really going on. And so what's recently happened in Alabama is that they redistricted. So they had a court case, I guess it was a Supreme Court case, that was trying to figure out how to redistrict the maps. And they said that the maps were racist because there's like 25% Black population in Alabama, but it was only one district that was just, I'll show you a map, but the way the districts were done, they felt that there should be more Black representation in Congress. And so the Supreme Court was like, you know what? Okay, we got you on this. And so they redrew the map so that now there are two districts that have a higher Black population as opposed to just one. And so what happened is a lot of people, it sounds like it was about 6,000 people, were changed from one district to another, received a voter card that had the wrong district.
So the board of registrars have sent all voters the cards of where they need to go. We encourage all voters to look and verify you're going to the right place on election day.
So some people were moved, I think, from District 2 to District 7 or from District 7 to District 2 or something like that. And so the voting precinct was correct. The ability to vote was not changed, but just the number on there was incorrect. And so the SPLC, which is the what is it called? Southern Poverty Law Center took this up, right? And they're like, look, see, they're trying to prevent us from voting. It's voter suppression, you know? They said it was a Secretary of State who's a Republican. They're like, this Republican, look at how they do us. Look at how they do us every time, right? Every single time we try to vote, they just don't want us to vote. And the Secretary of State, Wes Allen, was like, I had nothing to do with that. We didn't send that out. You know, he's like, I looked in our system, and all of these people are listed in the correct district. We get our information from the county, Montgomery County. So it turns out that it wasn't the Republican Secretary of State that had sent these out. It was Montgomery County itself who had sent these out.
If you have our mobile app, you can go ahead and find it right at your fingertips, or you can also use our new text message service by sending a text message.
But I think sometimes, like I said, it's like a triggered response, right? We're like provoked, I think, a little bit and triggered. And it's like, if you're looking, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Look, all they do is try to get us. All they do is try to get us. And then it's like, all you're looking for is them trying to get you. And then everywhere you see them trying to get you, even if that's not really what it is, right? Even if it was genuinely like a clerical error, which I think it seems like it was, it seems like the people who are in Montgomery are also Black. So like, you know, and the person who seems to be running that office, I'm not sure if he's the one that's running it, but like, this is a Black man he's talking about, we're going to send you a card, and if you have any question, here's another way that you can find the information, right? But it's like people, I feel like they're stroking this fire, right? Stroking this fire.
The right to vote is still under attack.
Like, look, they're racist on you. They're trying to prevent you from voting. And I just feel like it's not beneficial. It's not helpful, right? Because it keeps people in this negative, angry state and fearful. And all they're looking for is bad stuff, right? And so I just wanted to bring up one more thing before I finish, because I really did a deep dive into Alabama to see what was going on over there. And I'm like, is this guy really blowing smoke up our backsides, or is there anything here? And so one other thing that I found in Selma, Alabama is called SB 1. And it is a a bill talking about ballot harvesting. And this is a Republican bill. And what their concern is people being paid to collect absentee ballots.
We cannot and we will not accept this new Jim Crow in America.
Okay, so this is about the bill. Is that a Jim Crow law to prevent people from taking money to collect other people's absentee ballots? Is that a Jim Crow law to you?
Things like that directly impact voters' education and their ability to understand what has taken place in Alabama history and American history. And when you don't know where you've come from, it directly impacts how you're able to move forward.
And I think it's to prevent corruption. And so they seem to have, they say that Republicans say that there have been a couple of instances of ballot stuffing and people kind of like, falsely using absentee ballots to try to inflate the vote or do things like that. And so they're pretty much saying that you can put in your absentee ballot, but you can't be paid to collect absentee ballots.
America will be the democracy that we desire and that we deserve. Amen.
Norma Sanders, an activist with the NAACP, says, Senate Bill 1 would charge our civic organization employees, volunteers, and individuals with a crime for simply assisting their neighbors. Now, okay. Personally, I think that, it's tough because I feel like the Republicans sometimes will make laws and it just looks bad, is what I'm saying. I don't think that it's bad. I don't think there's anything wrong with SB 1 personally. But it's like, I wish the Republicans sometimes would just, it's like they're not always aware of how things look and are communicated within the Black community, right? So it's like, I think this is a fair bill. It's very easy. It's incredibly easy to put in your own absentee ballot. If you give your absentee ballot to a friend, they can put it in for you for free, right? It's not illegal to give it to a volunteer. It's not illegal to give it to someone else so that they can put it in the mail, right? Let's say I can't walk and I can't make it to the mailbox, which is right over here, right? You can give it to someone and they can put it there. This is about payment. This is about a financial exchange so that I think this is to disincentivize people from ballot stuffing, fake ballots and things like that. I think this is what that's really about. But the problem is, and this is what I was talking about from the beginning, I think the Black community still has a lot of trauma around this, and it's being like provoked.
White supremacists use violence and threats of violence to stop Black Americans from exercising their right to vote.
Right, it's being provoked. Like, let's fan the fires of your trauma. We know your trauma is around this spot, and we're just going to keep pointing it, right? Like, pushing it. We're just going to keep stroking the fire, fanning the flames of your trauma. And so when the Republicans do stuff like this, I think it's a fair bill. It could be that someone has been doing this, and they want to prevent people from being paid for voter fraud. Okay, But I think the problem is the Black people right now are so provoked and so wearisome, right? Of these things that they're like, fire, 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 right? When there may not actually even be any fire. Your voting rights are not under attack. You can still vote. You can still put your absentee ballot.
And just simply type polling locations and you'll be able to find where you go and vote on the March 5th election.
There's so many resources out there.
Yes.
There's no excuse to say, hey, I don't know where to go or what to do.
This is about people who are potentially criminally collecting ballots for money, right? Or potentially taking people's absentee ballot and then putting stuff on it and getting paid for that, right? I think that's what that's about, right? And so it's like, I just wish that we would really, and this is the point of this, really begin to celebrate new holidays and really begin to let go, forgive the past. I think there needs to be some like forgiveness, some reconciliation, some healing here, because it feels like all we're doing is rehearsing bad things that happened and then creating these self-fulfilling prophecies, right? That all we're looking for is trauma, and so we're finding more trauma. And having been someone who's had trauma and had to overcome that, part of it really is in your mind. I don't think a lot of times we realize the extent to which we create our reality. And when we rehearse only negative things, that's what we start looking for. Even if it's not really there, we'll start to see shadows in the corner.
The right to vote is still under attack.
And so I would just wish really from this that we would find healing and that the politicians would stop stroking these fans of the flame. You know, voter rights are not under attack. Voter rights are not under attack. People can still vote. It seems like there was a mistake that was done by a predominantly black county. It wasn't done by the Republican Secretary of State. You know what I'm saying? And because there was a mistake done, I'm not blaming it, but it's just kind of like because there was a mistake, we're like, oh my God, the Republicans are trying to get us. And it's like, is it, or are we just really sensitive about things like that? And I wish the Republicans would also would become more sensitive to that, right? And I get that this bill, SB1, may be fair. I think it actually is fair. But I wish they would be more sensitive to that trauma, and instead of provoking it, like I think both sides are kind of provoking it, right? And anyway, what do you all think about this? Tell me what you think in the comments. And as always, I love you guys, and I will see you on the next one. Peace. I hope you get a bottle of Afro oil today.
Fake entertainment.